I wasn't expecting a package, but there it was, a large Amazon box stamped with bold red letters, "Urgent Christmas Gift." It wasn't addressed to me, just my house number and Zoe. I should have left it alone. The box was warm when I picked it up, almost alive. Inside, I found a fleshy sack, pulsating like a heartbeat under wet, translucent skin. A card rested on top, handwritten in jagged letters, "Feed it before midnight." I laughed out loud. Someone was pranking me. I shoved the thing back into the box and set it outside. Whatever it was, it could freeze out there. Around 11:30 p.m., the scratching started. It sounded like fingernails dragging across cardboard. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, "Time's almost up." At 12:01, the sound stopped. Then came a wet ripping noise from the porch. I opened the door, and the box had burst apart. The sack lay split open, oozing viscous fluid. A hand, long and thin with clawed fingers, reached up from the shredded remains. I slammed the door, locking it. My breath hitched as I heard it dragging across the floorboards outside, tapping on the walls. At sunrise, it was gone. But another box was on my doorstep. This one read, "Replacement Zoe." On Christmas Eve, 7-year-old Daniel lay in bed, too excited to sleep. A faint rustle and the clinking of glass drifted from downstairs. "Santa." His heart raced as he tiptoed down the creaky staircase, careful not to wake his parents. The living room glowed with the soft light of the Christmas tree. There he was, Santa Claus, his red suit bright against the twinkling lights. Santa hunched over the table, devouring cookies and guzzling milk, crumbs flying everywhere. But something was wrong. Daniel froze. Santa's movements were too frantic, his breaths guttural, like a growl. Slowly, the figure turned to face him. What stared back was not Santa. Hollow eyes, black as coal, bored into Daniel's soul. The creature's sharp teeth glistened with milk and crumbs. Its red suit hung loosely, stained with what looked like old, dark blood. "Daniel," it rasped, voice deep and echoing like distant thunder. The boy's knees buckled as the creature stretched its grin impossibly wide. Darkness consumed him. When Daniel woke, it was Christmas morning. His parents found him curled under the tree, trembling and pale. He never spoke of what he saw. But every Christmas since, as he hung ornaments, he'd see it. A reflection in the shiny baubles, the creature's face, grinning just behind him. I thought I'd nailed it this year. My sister always loved antiques, so I ordered a vintage music box from a shady-looking website. It arrived late, scratched up but still functional. I wound it up, and the melody made my stomach twist. It was Mom's lullaby. Mom had been gone for 15 years. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Same tune, same soft, haunting notes she used to hum when I was little. The first night, the music box played by itself. I'd left it on the kitchen counter, and around 3 a.m., it started spinning. The melody filled the house, louder than it should have been, like someone was standing in the dark corners of my home, humming along. The second night, I locked it in a drawer. That didn't stop it. At exactly 3 a.m., the muffled tune started again, this time echoing down the hall toward my bedroom. By Christmas Eve, I couldn't take it anymore. I yanked open the music box, desperate to break it, but instead, I found a folded yellowing note. The handwriting stopped my breath. "You forgot about me, Emily." I didn't forget about you. That night, I woke to someone humming. Slowly, I sat up. A figure stood at the end of my bed, shrouded in shadows, rocking slightly. "Mom," I whispered. It tilted its head. The humming stopped. "No, It took a step forward, and in the dim light, I saw its face. Mom's, but wrong. Pale skin stretched too tight. Empty, black sockets where her eyes used to be. Its mouth opened, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. You stopped singing my song. The next morning, the music box was gone. In its place was a mirror. My reflection warped, my face beginning to look just like hers. Toby was the meanest kid in the neighborhood. He thrived on pulling pranks, tormenting younger kids, and mocking anyone who dared mention Santa Claus. Santa's fake, he'd sneer. And if he were real, he wouldn't care about me anyway. Christmas Eve was no different. Toby spent the day making snowballs laced with dirt and hurling them at kids decorating a tree in the park. That night, as his parents slept, the house fell silent, save for the faint sound of singing. It came from outside. Curious, Toby crept downstairs and opened the door. Standing in the snow were 4 figures cloaked in tattered black robes, their faces pale and gaunt, like withered wax. Their mouths gaped unnaturally wide, revealing jagged yellow teeth as they sang in haunting unison. "Oh naughty boy, so cruel, so vain, we bring you now the cold refrain. No gifts for you, no joy, no cheer, only shadows, dread, and fear." Their hollow eyes locked onto Toby. He tried to slam the door, but their icy hands gripped it open. One caroler leaned in, breath cold as death, and whispered, "You've been very bad this year, Toby." Terrified, Toby screamed, stumbling back into the house. The carolers continued singing as they vanished into the snowstorm outside, their melody lingering like a curse. The next morning, Toby's parents found him pale and shaking under the tree. From that day forward, he was different. He apologized to the kids he'd hurt, stopped his cruel pranks, and spoke only of kindness. But every Christmas Eve, as snow falls and carolers gather, Toby refuses to answer the door. He can still hear that dreadful song in his mind, each word reminding him of the hollow eyes that once stared into his soul. 9.4 The golden ball ornament sparkled at the top of the Christmas tree, basking in the glow of the twinkling lights. "Look at me," it bragged. "The way I shimmer, the way I shine. None of you dull things can compare." The candy cane ornament swayed below, scuffed and faded. "We're all part of the same tree," it said timidly. "Spare me your sentiment," the ball sneered. "I was chosen for the top. You're just filler." The old glass angel chimed in. "Pride comes before the fall, you know." "Fall? Me? Please," the ball laughed. But that night, the cat leapt onto the tree, batting at ornaments in delight. With one final swipe, the golden ball tumbled to the ground. It shattered with a sharp crack, sending glittering shards across the floor. The house lady rushed over, muttering in frustration. As she gathered the pieces, a sharp fragment pierced her palm. Blood trickled onto the floor. She gasped in pain and spat, "Cursed thing!" She flung the broken ornament into the roaring fireplace. As the flames consumed it, the ball screamed. "No, I was perfect. I was beautiful." The candy cane chuckled. "Not so shiny now, are you?" The angel joined in. "Pride always burns the brightest before it dies." "Stop the car!" Emma screamed as the reindeer darted across the icy road. The car screeched, but it was too late. The animal lay on the ground, its breath shallow, antlers trembling. "We have to help it," Emma whispered, rushing out into the biting cold. "Emma, no. It's just an animal." "Let's go," Mark snapped, yanking her arm. "It's still alive," she protested, stroking the creature's fur as its glassy eyes fixed on hers. "Get in the car. Now," Mark barked. Reluctantly, Emma obeyed. As the car sped off, she glanced back at the reindeer, its head lifting weakly before collapsing into the snow. That night, Mark tossed and turned in their rented cabin. In his dreams, the reindeer loomed over him, its antlers sharp as blades, its black eyes filled with rage. "You left me to die," it growled, its voice a chilling echo. Mark jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The room was eerily silent, save for the faint creak of the floorboards. The next morning, Emma woke to a metallic smell. Turning, she screamed. Mounted on the cabin wall, like a grotesque trophy, was Mark's severed head, his mouth agape, his eyes wide with terror. On the floor below, bloody hoofprints trailed out the door. The restaurant was aglow with soft candlelight, the perfect setting for Mark's proposal. As he slipped the ring onto Emily's finger, her face lit up brighter than the Christmas tree beside them. "Yes. 1,000,000 times yes," she exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. That night was perfect, but perfection doesn't last. Emily had work the next morning, so she insisted on going home. "I'll see you tomorrow, fiancé," she teased, blowing him a kiss as she left. Mark's phone rang at 2 a.m. The words from the police officer blurred in his mind. "Your fiancé, mugging gone wrong. I'm so sorry." The funeral was a blur, the days after a fog. But Mark's true nightmare began the following Christmas. It started with a knock at his door. He opened it to find no one there, but faint footprints trailed through the snow. "Mark," Emily's voice called, soft and ghostly. He turned, trembling, to see her silhouette standing by the Christmas tree, her dress stained red. "You let me walk alone," she whispered. Her hollow eyes stared into his soul. "Every Christmas," she returned. No matter where he went, her voice would echo, "Why didn't you come with me?" By the 5th year, Mark couldn't bear it. The ring he'd given her was found clasped in his frozen hand, beneath the tree where her ghost had stood. The first card arrived on December 1st. The envelope was red, the handwriting jagged. "Be good or else." "Santa." Monique chuckled nervously, tossing it aside. "Weird prank," she muttered. But then the cards kept coming, each one darker than the last. "Silent night. Deadly night." "Santa." "Mommy's been naughty." "Santa." "Better watch out." "I am." She stopped reading them aloud to her kids after her daughter, Tasha, asked, "Mommy, is Santa mad at us?" Monique told the landlord, who shrugged. "Probably some crazy neighbor. Christmas brings out the weirdos." By Christmas Eve, Monique had double-locked the doors, her nerves frayed. The final card lay on the table, unopened. She didn't need to read it to feel the threat. That night, as snow blanketed the city, Monique tucked her kids into bed, trying to soothe their fears. "Santa doesn't hurt people, baby. He's not real." At midnight, she heard it. The soft crunch of snow outside the window. Slowly, she turned to see him, a figure in a Santa suit, his face obscured, breath fogging the glass. In his gloved hand gleamed a knife. "Mommy," whispered Tasha, standing behind her. "Santa's here." Oliver was born in darkness. His mother's dying breath filled the orphanage halls, a place that seemed to feed on suffering. The headmaster, Mr. Bumble, called it charity. The children called it the mouth, because it consumed everything: their food, their youth, their souls. When Oliver dared to ask for more gruel, he wasn't beaten, he was offered up. "The mouth is hungry," Bumble sneered, dragging him to the cellar. Down there, The shadows moved like liquid, twisting and shifting as if alive. A deep growl echoed, though no animal could make that sound. Chains hung from the ceiling, dripping with red. The mouth wasn't metaphorical. It was real. A massive gaping maw, lined with jagged blood-stained teeth, pulsated at the center of the room. Bumble threw Oliver forward, but the boy scrambled away, screaming, "Help me!" That's when Fagin appeared, smiling wide, too wide. "Oh, you'll make a fine thief, Oliver," he hissed. "Steal for me, or the mouth takes you." Oliver didn't have a choice. Each night he returned with gold. Each night the mouth demanded more. But it wasn't satisfied with gold forever. One day it whispered, "Bring me flesh." And Oliver started with Bumble. 9.4